Hello and welcome to Get the Table, another wrestling roundtable discussion podcast with myself, Adam Wilbourn, and one of the Dudley boys, Michael Sidgwick from What Culture, here to discuss another burning wrestling issue. If you're a fan of this sort of thing, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for daily wrestling podcasts. But Michael Sidgwick, we are here to discuss the sale of the WWE Network to Peacock, a streaming service, basically a migration of the network to an American streaming service that's actually going to be cheaper for subscribers, $4.99 compared to the WWE Network's $9.99. But it will not exist, the WWE Network, in the States as of March 18th, courtesy of this multi-year deal that's been announced earlier on today, and is the talk of wrestling Twitter, Squared Circle, and just everywhere you look. First of all, Michael Sidgwick, your reaction to this news?
My reaction was WWE is played an absolute blinder, like an absolute blinder. Like, my reputation as a WWE cynic or someone who's pretty down generally on the modern product is consistent with declining viewership. And what's happened with the network is that it's completely failed to adequately replace the revenue stream once generated by the traditional pay-per-view business model, which it replaced. So the reason why I'm saying they've played an absolute blinder here is because they have taken something that didn't lose money, but didn't make anywhere near enough of it. And they've managed to, this is just, I can't wrap my head around this. What they've managed to do is take content that was considered nice, if inessential, by even a large part of WWE's audience, and they've made that as valuable as its TV. I mean, it's just quite incredible. It's quite incredible. Look, as a fan, it doesn't really bother me, or isn't really relevant to me because I'm in the UK and I'll still be paying a tenner a month for the network. But if you're an American fan, you've got to be laughing at this. Like, you're just shaving 50% off something that you would consider a bargain to begin with. If you're WWE, you're thinking, Jesus Christ, we've just made $1 billion for something that really didn't dent our business model one way or the other, dwarfed as it was by those TV rights that are so lucrative for them. And if you're Peacock, I mean, ultimately, you're a massive, massive corporation. This isn't, you're not living and dying with WWE. You're just simply paying a lot of money, which you have in spades, for something that theoretically you might think, oh, this might grow our brand, or at least we can attach and drive subscriptions with a dedicated fan base, aging out though they are. It's amazing news for American fans. It's even better news for WWE itself. For Peacock, you know, ultimately, this is a risk. WWE's audience is aging out. We know from the Nielsen data that they are struggling to reach key younger demographics. But ultimately, it's the market leader in the genre in which it operates. It's got recognized global brand value. The jury's out on the business side of whether it's going to be a big success for Peacock. But for WWE, this is actually tremendous, tremendous news.
Yeah, as you sort of alluded to there, WWE, over the last few years in particular, certainly the last 12 months or 24 months, we can certainly say WWE making money in spite of itself, like you say, a dwindling TV audience, and yet they sign billion-dollar deals with the likes of Fox and are locked into things like this now with Peacock. Just to clarify, in terms of the reasoning why it's happening mid-March as opposed to any other dates, that is because NBC Universal, who are behind Peacock, were desperate to get this deal across the line in time for WrestleMania, obviously the sort of showcase of WWE, which, as we've reported over the past few weeks, will now seemingly have fans in attendance. I think the last number I heard talked about was 25,000, depending on COVID restrictions and managing that sort of thing. Now, we talked in the passage about a Disney deal with WWE. Is this more preferable, do you think? Because, like you say, it's probably going to be more front and center for someone like Peacock, despite the huge amount of content that they already have.
I mean, I would say so. As far as I can understand from my limited exposure to this information and my limited knowledge of the deal, ultimately is that they are migrating something that wasn't generating much money, and they are making $1 billion off it. It's quite incredible. It is quite incredible. Like, WWE's output, and this isn't just me, a cynic, an AEW mark, a New Japan mark, whatever you want to describe me as. This isn't just me saying it. WWE's audience, TV-wise, is aging out. Before the new world happened as it did in the old world, live events were trickling down. I wish, Wilbourn, my only wish is that WWE creatively was 100th as good as they are business savvy. Because what they've done expertly is judged the wider entertainment market realized the flux it was in, positioned itself as essentially DVR-proof live sports programming, and managed to engineer amazing TV deals on the back of its unique USP. And not only have they leveraged the TV industry for like vast sums of money, what they've done is that they've spotted an emerging contender in the streaming services market, realized, hang on, they are going to struggle big time to topple the giants in terms of Netflix and Disney. They need a recognized brand with which to sell their product. They are backed by lots and lots of money. We can step in and be that brand. They're like a plug-in brand. They can plug one audience directly into their service. It's quite incredible how savvy they are business-wise. And it's not, for me, an accident whatsoever that Vince McMahon himself is not driving these deals. Over the past decade, he has outsourced the business side of things to much better business people.
That's what I was going to get onto next, actually, in terms of developing WWE, which we'll get onto in terms of figures. And obviously, we're not privy to a lot of backstage information, but by the sounds of the noises coming out of WWE and Peacock and all the press releases we've seen, particular credit is due to Nick Khan, who I believe is WWE President and Chief Revenue Officer. I think that's the correct title I'm using for him here. And he talked about it in this quote that when this story first broke on Yahoo Sports, he said, NBC is the best fit for us. As I said, NBC Universal, sort of parent company of Peacock. It's very confusing how all these sorts of things work over in the States. But yeah, Khan continues. They understand our product and our audience and have the SVOD, that subscription video on demand platform, to support it and drive our eyeballs that way. Now, WWE Network last year averaged 1.5 million subscribers, which is, like you say, for $9.99 a month, not to be sniffed at. But they're getting this money from Peacock, and Peacock already has over 25, I think maybe even 26 million subscribers. It's an incredible achievement and something that Nick Khan I think you were telling me yourself, has been brought in for and has showcased this talent.
Well, he's replaced Barrios and Wilson, who it was apparently Wilson's idea, George Barrios's idea to launch WWE Network in the first place. So for me, it feels like he was the guy who was outside of WWE's bubble, who knew how the wider entertainment market was shaping up. He applied WWE's business to that. And it feels to me, my initial idea is that he had the right idea, but not quite the right platform for that. WWE Network was direct to consumer. It relied on you being a WWE fan first and foremost to sign up for it. Obviously, in parallel, WWE has dwindled in terms of its popularity. So realistically, the only way of growing that business or to monetize the WWE Network was from existing rabid, hardcore WWE fans. So you were always going to limit the amount of subscribers on that basis, in my opinion. This, in theory, right, opens up WWE to far more. If you're an existing Peacock subscriber, if you enjoy watching various content that they promote on that platform, you might hear the buzz of WrestleMania. WrestleMania is in the general dictionary now. It's in the vocabulary of global life. Everyone knows what it is. Everyone used to watch it, but a great deal of people used to watch it back at the turn of the century. Theoretically, they could, in fact, see the thumbnail for WrestleMania and go, you know what, I'm going to give that a watch.
Yeah.
Haven't done so in years. They might have a big star, and they probably will have a big star to promote it around, like a John Cena or a Goldberg, at least per the most recent rumors. But ultimately, I don't think we should get ahead of ourselves. WWE has long tried to import these stars on its programming. They do Legends Nights. They do various grabs to get you to watch with the idea of, Goldberg's coming back, come and watch it. The Rock's coming back, come and watch our product. It just doesn't work like that. And if you think about it, the TV audience is far bigger, potentially, than a streaming service with 25 million people on it. Like, cable TV has more reach than that. So there's no reason why WWE should grow its product. But nonetheless, in terms of actual dollars and cents, this is an incredible deal that potentially exposes WWE to a far, far bigger audience. Whether they can take advantage of that and monetize and attract a bigger audience, I'm going to take a dim view on that one personally. I can't see it happening. I don't think the product is anywhere near good enough. I think if you watch a typical episode of Monday Night Raw. I realize that SmackDown generates further acclaim. But if you are just John Doe, not John Doe, a murder victim, even though you might feel like that by the third hour, if you are Johnny Smith on the street, right, and you turn on to Raw, you'll think, what's this? Yeah. I've got no idea what this is, and nor do I want to watch it anymore. But ultimately, in theory, what this new business person has done has opened WWE up to a much bigger audience and made them a whole hell of a lot of money. So fair play to him. And again, I just wish they were as good and as resourceful and inspired as they are on a business level. If they could apply even 100th of that to this dire product of late, we'd all be a lot happier. Certainly I would.
You talk about this being a breaking news story. Things are developing as we are recording stuff. So once again, apologies if we've missed out anything that you feel should have been covered. But I've just seen well, not we personally, but an email has gone out from Stephanie McMahon talking about this deal, clarifying details and saying, yeah, we are thrilled to bring the WWE Network to Peacock beginning March 18th and to continue to create best-in-class sports entertainment content that will not only put smiles on people's faces, but provide our fans with an experience worthy of their passion. Also, more clarification I'm just seeing with more press releases coming from WWE. I think the big concern when we first saw this story breaking, we were talking about it across our work chat, was about the sort of original content that we get from WWE. You sense with it all migrating over there, and you know, it's sort of exemplary of us to say WWE might think less of something when they have less control over it. But the concern is, and certainly when I was talking about this with them when we were first reporting it, is whether or not they will continue to produce their excellent documentaries and things like that. Well, more clarification from them here, saying all live pay-per-views, including WrestleMania and SummerSlam, will be the first Fastlane, to clarify, will be the first pay-per-view to stream on Peacock. That goes down Sunday, March 21st. There's going to be all the original series, Steve Austin Broken Skull sessions, Undertaker The Last Ride, in-ring shows, obviously replays of Raw and SmackDown with that sufficient sort of time delay from when they go out on TV. I believe it's a month, if I'm not mistaken. All the archive stuff is still going to be on there, and groundbreaking documentaries, including WWE 24, WWE Untold, and WWE 365. And starting next year, 2022, one signature, easy for me to say, documentary annually. So in terms of people who are concerned maybe about less original content coming from WWE, which is one of the few things they create now that is really appreciated by across the board by wrestling fans, that seems to be staying the same for now, at least, Sidge.
Indeed. Looking at it from the perspective of a consumer, like no one's getting the short thrift here. You're not getting like the B-level pay-per-views at the fixed monthly price, and then you have to fork out extra for WrestleMania. You are getting the lot, it sounds like. Again, this is a brand new announcement. This is a brand new deal as far as we're concerned. Obviously, they've worked on it in the background before they came out with it publicly. But in terms of all the messaging I'm getting at the moment, I will have no doubt as a consumer that I'm going to get the full or close to it network experience. Ultimately, it's going to be a huge undertaking. I think it'll be very expensive to host the vast reaches of the WWE network. Maybe at some point they'll realize it's not financially in our best interests to host Storytime or Camp WWE.
If they take Swerved off, then can't use Peacock subscription. I'm in the UK, but you get what I mean.
Yeah. Ultimately, like the main body of content is not going to change as far as I understand it. I can't imagine that Storytime anyone would care. If in fact that doesn't make it over or gets binned off, ultimately you're getting, it sounds like, the very best of the WWE network, which again, even a modern cynic like myself would still happily pay for. It's a total bargain. I love going back and watching WWE when it was good. Just the other night, I watched the main event of In Your House, Canadian Stampede, Wilbourn. It remains so goddamn thrilling, right, that the hard camera, which is fixed in place, that's why it's a hard camera, shakes because everything's going that ballistic at how hot that program was, at how great the match was, how popular the Hart Foundation were. So look, even if you think Raw's rubbish, which obviously I do, you're still going to get all those cherished memories at, if you're an American, half the price. I mean, this news, you can say it's great for WWE, it is. You can say it's a calculated risk as far as big companies can take risks for Peacock. But as a fan, particularly an American fan, you're going to be absolutely jumping through brick walls.
What do you think this is going to mean in terms of WWE's content? Because you and I have sat here for years now and cried out about WWE needs to change things, particularly on something like Monday Night Raw. And we talk about this seemingly on a weekly basis when the ratings come out and they go down, and then they say, oh, some legends will show up, and then they go up again. And then they've got, NXT's TV deal apparently coming up for renegotiation, or may have to change regarding the NHL moving, et cetera, et cetera. My concern, and I want to try and remain as positive as I can with news like this, but my concern is they've got the money from the TV deals. They've now got the money from the streaming service. For all the fans who sit there and try and make hashtag cancel WWE Network trend like they did, whatever it was, 6 years ago or whatever, it feels like now more than ever, the fans are arguably the last thing that WWE needs to consider. Is that too harsh for me?
No, that's not too harsh at all. I think it was Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics or Chris Harrington before he made the move to All Elite Wrestling projected that some point in the very near future, fan-driven revenue is going to account for less than 50% of what WWE makes in total, which of course is going to make our actual fandom, bonkers as this will read or sound, like we are almost inessential to them making money. Like we have to watch. The advertisers have to know that we watch to be able to want to broadcast their products in the first place. But ultimately, we are an indirect key to their success at the moment. So that's strange. This is where the bad news kicks in. Yes, you're going to get the great versions of WWE at the push of a button or the click of a thumbnail for half the price if you're living in North America. In terms of how this deal might affect the actual creative in terms of WWE right now, initial impulse reaction from me is that at the very least, it's hardly going to push them into a new futuristic, much needed direction. Like there'll be less of an incentive to improve that product.
And they
they're obviously thinking they're doing something very, very right to be able to strike such deals in the first place. There'll be less of an incentive than ever to, like, put it this way, on December 2018, I believe it was, Raw, the McMahon family infamously came out, tails tucked between the legs, and said, look, they came out and said, it's not just me analyzing it. They said, we haven't been doing a very good job for you lately. And then they issued an empty threat. It wasn't a promise, it was a threat to change their programming. And lo and behold, nothing happened. If you think they're going to do anything like that, that was overt. If you all think they're going to do like anything tacitly consistent with that, not at all. If they were to completely try and overhaul the direction or say, oh, we're going to have to change things, like that would be a terrible message to these prospective new Peacock subscribers. So ultimately, even if it gets worse, which again, on the basis of the last 3 or 4 weeks of Monday Night Raw, it will, like they're not going to eat crow about it this time, at least not for a while. But as I said, like they've got the money, they believe they're doing the right things, hence why they're getting these deals in the first place. It's mad how they've capitalized on two emerging or failing markets like in TV and streaming. It's not going to change the modern product one iota, any of this. I'm quite confident of that.
Yeah, so I saw a joke already doing the rounds on Twitter where, like you say, they've sort of explained away any issues they've had regarding whether it be network subscriptions or viewership. Whenever they have those meetings, Vince says, oh, well, it's the ongoing global bastard. Well, now he's going to turn around and say, good news, the network subscriptions have gone from 1.5 million to 26. So it's all good now. And like you say, it's mad for me to think, oh, well, hopefully now WWE will focus on making WrestleMania as good as it possibly can, because it's this sort of showcase event. I know Fastlane's going to be on there before then, but it's going to be the showcase event for fans on Peacock. It's like, well, they probably should do that anyway, because it's WrestleMania. It's the biggest show of the year, et cetera, et cetera. One final thing I want to talk about, and this is purely speculation, of course, that has done the rounds already at What Culture. And it's something we look for, like a John Cena heel turn. The retirement of Vince McMahon. I've already seen a few people, Michael Hamflett is a name I'm going to drop here, suggesting that could this be the beginning of the end for Vince McMahon in terms of the fact he's got one final huge deal sorted, and maybe hopefully he'll hand the reins over to someone else. someone who's maybe had a reigns of terror. No, it doesn't matter. What do you reckon? Any chance of that happening?
No.
That's simple.
No. I was just doing a bit there. I can't see it happening at all. He lives for this company. He thrives for it. If anything, his ability to strike this deal will, one, it will embolden him to write terrible Raw scripts at the last minute. I think he's Billy Big Bollocks doing this. He will love the idea that he's done it. And honestly, like, I know he didn't, like Khan did, but ultimately he can say he's the face of this. He's Ronald McDonald these days in terms of the way that they present their business face to investors and the market. This will, one, embolden him to do it. And two, even though he's been getting hammered by investors recently, market confidence still, as I understand it, is in Vince McMahon. So if anything, the idea of WWE in transition with a Vince retirement, for all intents and purposes, this man has just struck this deal. Like, I personally think he's obviously given that task to somebody else, shall we say. He can proclaim it as his own, or like, you know, his company has done this. I think it'll, one, embolden him to do it. And two, if you did think about retirement, I don't think you would do it anytime soon, because that market price, that stock price is going to go way up. He can claim responsibility for it. And yet again, the idea is that Vince McMahon is irreplaceable and the market will have confidence in him, which is just in such stark contrast to the way that his fandom receive Vince McMahon these days. Look, it's one of those, Vince McMahon, when he does eventually, if and when he does eventually retire, absolutely nobody ever will be able to say, I told you so, because no one would ever say it. There's no better prediction, if you care about like getting your predictions right or knowing what you're talking about. There's no safer prediction than saying, oh, Vince will do this until he physically can't anymore. No one will ever say, oh, you're an idiot for saying that, because it's in the DNA of the man to be a workaholic, to be proud of what he's doing. He's always wanted to be legitimized as an entertainment purveyor. He's always tried to launch like XFL, WWE studios. He's always trying to launch his projects into the mainstream proper realm of the entertainment industry. This is closer to that than being the architect of a fading program. He can be bloody proud of himself, Wilbourn. He can be bloody proud of himself, what he's just done. And I think he will revel in that for several years to come.
Well, a fascinating story with some very intriguing developments. The WWE Network in the States migrating to Peacock or Peacock Premium. We will keep you posted as and when we get more information on this, but we'd love to know, particularly from our American fans, your reaction to this news. Do let us know in the comments section below or on Twitter at WhatCultureWWE. Watch there. You can follow both myself and Michael Sidgwick. You can follow Sidge at
Sidgwick for good tweets.
You can follow me at Adam Wilbourn for tweets. You can follow us all at What Culture WWE, and we'll go into more detail, no doubt, as these things develop in more podcasts. What Culture Wrestling, wherever you get your podcasts from, for that. But this has been Get the Table. My thanks to Michael Sidgwick. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you soon.